Howdy, my name is Nonat, and today I'm going to be making a lot of people very upset. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my opinion, my personal top 10 classes in the Pathfinder 2e core rulebook. Now, you may already be thinking, Nonat, aren't there 12 classes in the core rulebook? And the answer is yes. Yes, there are.
Then why not do a top 12 and talk about all of them?
Well, the answer is simple. Part of me really wants to see how people react when their favorite class doesn't even rank in the top 10 list. But also, none of the classes are bad, in my opinion. Well, except one. So even the two that don't make the top 10 aren't bad classes. They're still just as cool and just as fun to play as the others. But like any top 10 on YouTube, normal rules apply. It's all my personal opinion. Strength of the class will have some effect on their ranking, but it's not the end-all be-all. Flavor, customization, fun factor, a lot of different stuff goes into my decision on where to rank each class. It's also worth mentioning that some classes are stronger at different levels. Some classes may be super powerful in 1 to 10 campaigns, but fall off a little bit from 11 onward. The opposite might also be true. So I'm taking some of that into account when I do these rankings. Also, I know people are gonna have, you didn't think about this build, it's way stronger if you use these feats. Well, the Pathfinder 2e system has over 500 class feats in the core rulebook alone. I'm gonna forget some feats. I'm taking as much info into account when I make this list as I can, so forgive me if I miss a few things. Just remember that all of this is the personal opinion of some 25-year-old schmuck who lives in New Hampshire. Now that I've gotten all that out of the way and a bunch of people have skipped it, let's get right on with a quick advertisement. Like, really quick. Like, 15 seconds. Go ahead and time me, okay? Go. Arcane Spectacle sells really awesome, unique TTRPG accessories. They have awesome ways to use your dice like spell slot or armor class trackers. Go check them out and use code NONAT10 for 10% off your order at checkout. Done! Okay, let's get on with the video. First off, the two classes that didn't even make the top 10. It's Champions and Bards. Yeah, throw your tomatoes, boo me in the comments, whatever. I can't talk on and on about each of these classes, otherwise this video will be 3 hours long, so I'll just try to get the long and short of it. The short answer for Champions is that their feat choices are garbage. So many levels of the champion feel dead and useless because your choices are so limited and not that exciting. At level 4, would you rather gain the ability to remove Frightened with Lay on Hands? How about get a +1 versus disease saving throws? Maybe even reduce the Frightened condition when it affects you by 1. Now, these aren't necessarily bad choices, but when you compare it to, like, the Ranger at level 4, with Disrupt Prey, Running Reload, and Twin Parry, it's hard not to feel a bit cheated. Now, I'm not saying champions don't have good feats. Quick Block and Shield of Reckoning are fantastic, but all champions sort of get locked into this same one most effective build of Turtle. They're amazing at defending their allies and themselves, but a lot of champions, especially in the first 6 to 8 levels, get 2 actions per turn and raise a shield. They lack any kind of real firepower. Even if you take the Divine Blade ally feature, you really only get some runes that alter what you can hit and add some functionality, not really boost your damage. Moving on to Bards, my biggest gripe here is that in 2nd edition Pathfinder, they're just another spellcaster. I think I actually praised this fact in my Bard beginner guide, but since then I've played a Bard in a one-shot, and I kind of felt let down. No longer are Bards sort of a spellcaster and a fighter and a rogue. Now they're kind of like warlocks that can sing. I just wish these Bards had the flexibility and all-roundedness that they have in other systems. In Pathfinder 2e, they're no longer jacks of all trades. They just play music, and then people are either healed or they die. Even with the new Warrior Muse from the APG, which I'm not counting for the rankings in this video, I'm just trying to make a point, their proficiency with weapons don't even go above Expert. Some classes start the game with Expert. But Bard composition spells and composition cantrips, still cool as hell. But now, moving on to the real list, my top 10 core classes in Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Number 10.
Coming in at number 10 is the Cleric. Now, this was hard for me to do. I love Clerics, but I have some gripes with Pathfinder 2e's version of them. For a game system that prides itself on customization, Clerics sort of feel like you're forced into one of two builds. You're either a backline support/healer or a frontline fighter. I suppose you can also make a build completely around the heal or harm spell thanks to the fonts, and at level 1 you could cast heal or harm up to 7 times a day. But making a whole build around one spell isn't super fun. My whole gripe really boils down to the Cleric's Doctrine system. Every class in Pathfinder gets some kind of subclass. The Rogue gets 3 Rackets, the Barbarian gets 5 Instincts, the freaking Sorcerer gets 10 Bloodlines. And the Cleric gets 2 Doctrines. One is for spellcasting, one is for melee fighting. And they didn't even get any new ones in the APG. I'm sorry, the APG does not affect this video. That still makes me really upset. Pathfinder 2e's big claim to fame is its customizability. And compared to D&D 5e's 7 domains that a cleric can pick from, 2 doctrines is really underwhelming. The reason clerics feel so underwhelming is definitely because of the rest of the system. There's still lots of choices to be made. They still have to pick a deity, which grants them skills, proficiency with a weapon, and extra spells in their spell list, but compared to a lot of the choices the other classes get, the cleric just sort of isn't there. If Paizo had added even one more doctrine to the cleric, I think it would have bumped them up at least another rank or 2 in the list, but sadly that's not the case.
Number 9.
I am gonna make so many people angry. Number 9 is Sorcerers. I know, you guys love Sorcerers, and I think they're rad as heck. I just have some really mixed feelings about the Bloodline system. Personally, I think classes that can use any spell list somewhat invalidate some other classes. The only difference between a Bard and an Occult Sorcerer is that Bards get composition spells and Sorcerers get Bloodline spells. Other than those features and the feats that supplement them, they're incredibly similar. They even both use Charisma as their spellcasting modifier. Now, like I said, I have mixed feelings, because I still think that the Sorcerer Bloodline from a roleplay perspective is super freaking rad. I should clarify that all of these complaints about the system are strictly from a gameplay perspective. Obviously, a Bard and a Hag Sorcerer are 2 very different characters in roleplay. My other big reason for having Sorcerers so low is something that actually applies to all spellcasters. The fact is that spellcasters tend to fall behind when it comes to spell attack rolls at higher levels. This is largely due to Pathfinder 2e's armor class scaling with its rune system. Enemy armor class sort of assumes that your characters will be upgrading their weapons with runes, which increase their chance to hit. And you can't augment spells with runes like you can a weapon. At really high levels, a weapon with a +4 potency rune on it is getting +4 on top of proficiency, while your spell attack rolls are just stuck with proficiency. Unless you homebrew it, there are no items in the system that improve spell attacks. Even at level 10, a martial class with a +2 potency weapon effectively now has a +2 bonus higher than a magic user to hit with all of their attacks. +2 doesn't sound like a lot, but in Pathfinder 2e, 2 points means a ton. And I get why they did it. They still have spells that require saving throws, not just attack rolls, but this limitation, it holds them back, but it does also balance them, and I see why they did it. Unfortunately, that means this limitation also applies to
Number 8.
Wizards. They're very similar to sorcerers, except they only use the arcane spell list, and I like them better. Honestly, a lot of what I said in the sorcerer bit really copies over to this one. Personally, wizards have better focus spells, and their feats and class features are just more interesting to me. Honestly, whenever it comes down to sorcerers versus wizards, it's just a preference thing. I've always preferred the fact that wizards have to study and own their craft versus sorcerers who just kind of wake up and are like, oh, I can shoot fireballs! Whee! I think the effort that the wizard has to put in just makes it an inherently more interesting class. As far as mechanics are concerned, they're pretty similar, except wizards are prepared spellcasters and sorcerers are spontaneous. Wizards suffer the exact same faults and shortcomings as sorcerers, but I prefer the thesis and school system over the bloodline system. I'm just upset that I'm ranking wizards this low because they're the only class in the game that get access to the best spell in the game, Hand of the Apprentice!
Number 7.
The Barbarian is coming in at number 7 because while I think the Pathfinder 2e version of the Barbarian is the best version I've ever seen, it's still a little lackluster when compared to some other martial classes. They hit hard like a fighter, they're bulky like a champion, but they're limited to medium armor at most, and their weapon proficiency never goes beyond master. Now don't get me wrong, their class features like Greater Juggernaut and Devastator are phenomenal, and some of their class feats are so cool, like Giant Stature. Their damage bonus from Raging also scales incredibly well, by high levels almost functioning as an additional damage die on your weapon. Let this be a message about just how great all of Pathfinder 2e's classes are. The fact that a Goblin Barbarian with blue wings can breathe lightning breath at you from 60 feet away and follow it up by hurling an electric javelin through your chest is 7th place.
Number 6.
Number 6 is where it starts getting really difficult to rank these classes. You could honestly rearrange the order of most of these, and I wouldn't be able to argue with you. I decided to give number 6 to Rangers. My main reason for this is due to their customizability, which you have and will hear pop up a ton in this list. Versatility and customization are two huge factors for me when ranking a class. Now, I love Rangers. In fact, Rangers are my single favorite martial class to play, but I don't think they're the single best martial class. Their gameplay style is so unique compared to anything else I've experienced in RPGs, in that it's entirely single-target burst damage. It's all focused around their hunt-prey feature, and all of their bonuses and feats upgrade their attacks against their hunted prey. And these bonuses get wild. Even at level 1, a dual-wielding ranger with flurry can attack for no penalty, -2, -4 against their hunted prey. A -4 maximum multiple attack penalty is nuts. And that's at level 1! Plus, the ability to have an animal companion who also benefits from your hunter's edge is just so cool. The only thing really keeping them this low on the list is their full reliance on physical damage. Now, I want to be clear. I'm saying this as a downside, but I personally love this. I adore the fact that in the core rulebook, they are a completely physical martial class. No magic whatsoever. And while, yes, this is a limitation technically, I think it adds to the flavor, which definitely gets bonus points for me. I will say, due to their single-target nature, they are far weaker in swarm encounters and encounters with a ton of enemies. They don't really have any feature that allows them to target another prey without spending actions. Double prey does mitigate this a little bit, but not completely.
Number 5.
Number 5 is just a hair above Rangers, but I'm giving it to Monks. I cannot say how much I enjoy what Paizo did with monks in this system. The stance system as a whole is just dripping with flavor and something monks have needed for years. Most of these stances are completely non-magical in nature and are just their strict physical martial training being used in new ways. Now, if that's where it ended, I definitely would have ranked them below Rangers, but what just pushes them above is the key system. I think Pathfinder 2e's focus point system works perfectly for the monk's key. A lot of people have complained that monks don't have a fully key-reliant build in Pathfinder 2e, but personally I love it. I don't think a monk is a spellcaster. I think the key is there to supplement the monk's abilities. So if they want to add elements to their attacks, that's awesome, but I like that it's limited to 3 times per encounter because of the focus point system. Even a full key-focused build monk still has to rely on their martial expertise at some point in the encounter. This, combined with all their various stances, means you can build your monk almost any way you want. Dexterity monks, strength monks, wisdom monks, hell, even constitution monks that just stand there and take hits to protect the party. They can do so much depending on your feat choices, and that kind of versatility is what really separates these top 5 classes from the others.
Number 4.
4th place is going to the final spellcaster on this list, the Druid. Now, the Druid's earned its place similar to the Monk because of its sheer versatility. On top of the 4 subclasses of druidic orders you can pick at character creation, there's actually a 2nd level feat you can take that allows you to pick another one. And
another one
if you take it again, and you can pick every druidic order and gain the benefits from all of them. This is a completely unique feature to druids that you can technically take every single subclass on one character, and that is just so cool. You can be a wild storm leaf animal order druid. You'll have an animal companion, you'll have a leshy familiar, you can shoot lightning and grow claws, and it's just amazing. Now obviously you don't have to do that, and druids, just because of all their different choices, like I said about monks, can do almost anything. You want a frontline fighter? Go with the wild form. You want a backline support? Take some healing spells. You want a mid-range spellcaster? Take that Tempest Surge from the Storm Order and grab some other offensive spells. You want to go mid-range? Grab a bow and an animal companion and fight with them. Druids can really fill almost any slot on a team you might need, and the only limitation is due to their proficiencies with weapons and armor. I'm a sucker for versatility and customization, so druids really nail that for me.
Number 3.
I'm curious how many people actually thought this class would get as high as it did, because 3rd place goes to rogues. On top of sheer customizability, and yes, I'm going to keep saying that, they have even more going for them. First off, the Rogue Rackets. These are subclasses just like any other class gets, but these let you change your key ability score depending on your racket. Strength if you're a ruffian, charisma if you're a scoundrel, and that's completely unique to rogues. Some other classes get 2 choices for their key ability modifiers, but it's almost always just strength and dexterity. The fact that rogues can take charisma as their key ability score is incredible. It's not even super combat focused. Sure, it buffs their feint maneuver in combat and allows them to make people flat-footed easier, but the sheer versatility outside of combat for rogues is completely unparalleled by any other class in the game. Rogues literally get twice as many skill feats and skill increases as any other class. The other classes only get them on odd levels, whereas rogues get them every single level. This fact alone is really why rogues made it so far up this list. Sure, they're not quite as versatile or customizable as a monk or a druid, but their out-of-combat abilities just makes them a complete Swiss Army knife that's good in every situation. It doesn't matter what it is. Let me put it to you this way. A rogue with a +3 intelligence can be trained in every skill in the game by level 3. And with all of this, rogues are still a completely unique fighter in combat. Rather than focusing on dishing out high damage numbers, they debuff people, they inflict conditions, and they inflict flat-footed almost constantly. These allow your allies to get in harder hits and hit more often on enemies who might otherwise have really high armor classes. Overall, this version of a rogue is exactly what I've always wanted it to be.
Number 2.
At second place, I'm gonna make so many people upset. At second place, even though I don't talk about this class very much, I cannot deny the power and versatility of the Alchemist. A healer, a range damage dealer, a melee fighter, a buffer, a debuffer, even a tank if you build them correctly. Alchemists are the monsters of flexibility. Even if you specialize in one thing, you don't lose access to the rest. If you pick the bomber research field to improve your attacks, you can still make healing items, you can still make mutagens, and you can give those healing items to your ally. You can give those mutagens, you can give those bombs to your allies. They're like spells you can give to other people to use, and that's always been one of the coolest parts of the Alchemist for me. Rather than relying on you to cast heal, the fighter now has a healing potion they can use at any time. Oh, to the ranger's bow break? Here, take a few bombs and throw them at people. Going to talk to the mayor, huh? Take this Quicksilver mutagen. Gives you a +2 to all your charisma skills and makes you immune to critical failure for 10 minutes. Alchemists can do it all, even going so far as to be slightly more accurate with their attacks than spellcasters. While alchemists don't go above expert proficiency with their bombs come with inherent attack bonuses. Almost like they come with potency runes in the bomb. A level 17 alchemist throwing a greater alchemical bomb would actually be +1 more accurate than a master spell attack wizard. I can go on and on about what alchemists can do, and I know a ton of people are going to be so mad at me for putting them this high up the list, and I look forward to reading your hurtful comments. That's just where I stand. I personally think people don't value versatility high enough. In a lot of situations, being able to do everything well is better than being able to do one thing perfectly. Which brings me to...
Number 1.
It's fighters. I hate them. They start with expert proficiency in all weapons except advanced. They get master proficiency at level 5. They end up master in fortitude, reflex, and perception, master in all armors, and not only are they the only martial class that attains legendary proficiency in weapons at all, but they get it at level 13! This wouldn't be as big of a deal if it weren't for Pathfinder's +10, -10 critical rules. Due to a fighter's insane bonuses to hit, they critically hit so damn often that their damage towers over the other classes. And if they have an ally making the enemy flat-footed, you're basically critically hitting almost every attack. Along with that, they have 10 pages of feats to pick from, access to stances like a monk. Oh, and speaking of monks, fighters begin with better proficiency in unarmed strikes than monks. I'm done!